The Sustainability Reporting Standard Board of ICAI, Jyoti Singh extends a warm welcome to all of you to the 36th session of our webinar series, Demystifying Sustainability Catalyzed Growth. Today's session is centered around a critical theme, supply chain management for e-commerce. We are honored to have with us CA Hansraj Chugh sir as special addressee, our esteemed speaker, Mr. Sarvartha Kanchanji, and our moderator for today, CA Ankita Shah and CA Kirti Agarwal ji. Let us now begin. I would like to invite CA Kirti Agarwal ji to kindly take the session forward and introduce our special addressee, CA Hansraj Chugh sir. First, then we will start the session.
Good afternoon, everyone. Let me start with the introduction of our special addressee, CA Hansraj Chugh sir. CA Hansraj Chugh is a fellow chartered accountant, fellow company secretary, a law graduate, and an insolvency professional. He has more than 3 decades of experience in professional practice relating to indirect tax, foreign trade laws, introducing foreign trade policy, customs, foreign exchange and management act FEMA, GST, indirect tax related matters, and banking related laws. He is a founding partner of ASHM and Associates Chartered Accountants, New Delhi. He serves various Indian corporates and MNC in his professional practice. He is currently a Central Council member of ICAI for the council term 2025 to 2029 and nominated as a chairman of the Board of Studies Academic, DY Conveyor of Group on Rural Development Economy, and vice chairman of Financial Reporting Review Board FRRB for the year 2025-2026. He has also served as a Central Council member of ICI for the council terms 2019 to 22 and 22 to 25. During his terms in 19 to 22 and 22 to 25, he has served various committees, boards as a chairman, vice chairman during the year. He is also served the
Kirti,
profession of chartered accountants as a member of NIRC of ICAI for 2 terms, 2010 to 13 and 13 to 16, and held position as a secretary during the period 2010-11 and vice chairman during 15 and 16. He is
Kirti ma'am,
also
it's okay. A lot has been said about me. I'm
Yeah.
really thankful to you, Kirti, for really introducing me so strongly. I'm
Yeah,
really
thank you so
grateful
much.
and thankful to you and naturally this board as such, under the able chairperson of the board, Preeti Parasavla, and my another colleague in the council, CA Dr. Sanjeev Kumar Singalji, as a vice chairman of this board. Really been today's topic. Naturally, you both of you being a moderator, Kirti Agarwal and Ankita Shah, and the speaker around us, Sarvartha Kanchanji. The topic selected by this board today for the webinar is really very encouraging. Today, if we really understand the sustainability of any economic segments, it carries some kind of the e-commerce, whether within our country or the overseas also. Many things in the e-commerce has to be understood with, whether it is the speedy delivery or the reasonability of the price also. And many a time what we find, the GST coming in the whole system, ki every place is been, as far as the tax part is concerned, has been made equal across India. So that has really been as for the warehousing segments, for the delivery mechanism, and the many technology has brought us come closer. Even in you see, like anything you order from your home or the office, within 10 minutes you get at your place. So with that kind of the understanding and that kind of the speed and the reasonability of the price also, because of the competitive things around us, but many challenges are there in the supply chain management. If we talk about across the globe, so the things whatsoever is available, they may be available in abundance. There are the many things which are scarce in the resources, or the scarcity is available. So if we talk about the e-commerce combined with the supply chain, so you have to be very cautious. Technology, the economic order quantity, and the many ways it requires a good management skill. And who has to play a bigger role? A chartered accountant who is well versed with the technology, well versed with the financial aspects, well versed with the material management, and many things around it. Then only one can really bring out best for the clients. And today's word, if we talk about the many apps are there around us, and the holistically speaking, in the dynamic environment, everything change a day-to-day basis. Earlier it used to be a little static and then little dynamic. Now it's a complete dynamic environment. In the process, we as a professional, all the participants has to understood with our well experienced the speaker around us. He'll be bringing out many good things to understand with, from the ABC of the analysis for the stock arrangements, to the reasonability of the price and the best time in the delivery, in the logistic management. Many things are there to understand with. And as a chartered accountant and facilitator of the strategic decision making, our role extends to advising organization on the cost control, vendor selection, technological adoption, risk mitigation, and the process optimization through the value chain mechanism. So these are our prime responsibility if we are into those kind of the aspects to be looked at. And today's webinar, we look forward of deepening our understanding of the e-commerce, delivery models, reverse logistic, demand analytics, fulfillment strategies, and emerging technologies such as automation, real-time tracking, and AI-based forecasting also. And today's discussion serve as a platform to explore innovative solutions, strengthen business frameworks, and contribute to building robust and the scalable supply chain systems for the India's rapidly expanding and digital commerce sector. Well, we understand with our country is a diverse, from the large and the multinational corporations to the small and medium entrepreneurs, enterprising. So many things are there which applies to a particular sector. Sector specific issues are there. If we talk about the FMCG, things are different. If we talk about the industrial supply, things are different. If you talk about the supply within the supply as an intermediary to an industrial system itself, so things are little different. Many ways we have to analyze holistically this e-commerce supply chain management, whether for the manufacturing sector, for the mining sector, for the supply or the service sector, and many things keep on changing. And today I believe so, this our speaker will be bringing out so many good things to us, to each one of us. The participants are with large numbers sitting all across India, and some may be from the overseas also. I'm really fortunate to be as a initial initiator of this webinar, and naturally the able chairperson Preeti Paras Savla may be joining at any moment. Our another friend and the colleague in the council, CA Dr. Sanjeev Kumar Singhal who is also been proactive, bringing out many changes in the whole system of the sustainability. A business will sustain with, our economy will grow with, and in the time to come, we'll see the sun and the light to be a developed nation in the time to come. E-commerce has now equally been risen over a period of time, which continue to be rise in the time to come. I personally believe so. The percentage of the whole economic system of the country will definitely grow as we are driving towards the further and the developed sectors and the technology advancing. With these words, I welcome each and every participants. I welcome my speaker around us. I welcome the moderators, two of our moderators around us, and thanks to the team here, Jyoti Singh as a acting in charge of the SRSB and the other team members. Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Hello.
Now over to
Well-
moderator Preeti.
Yeah,
15 मिनट
yeah.
कोई
Let
सब
me
टाइम
introduce
अभी रहता है, कोई
the
नहीं।
chairperson of SRSB committee, CA Preeti Paras Salva. So, as everyone must be knowing about the ma'am, CA Preeti Paras Salva is a Central Council member and holds key roles as a chairperson of Sustainability Reporting Standard Board and Women and Young Member Excellence Committee. Vice Chairperson of the Corporate Laws and Governance Committee and Group on Enabling Lifestyle for Environment Life, and is also on the Board of Discipline
The,
and other committees.
Kirti ma'am will join us shortly. So as she
Yeah.
is not here, so we'll start with the introduction of the speaker and then we'll start the session.
Sure.
When ma'am will
Sure.
join, then we can introduce ma'am.
All right. So the topic for the today's session is supply chain management for e-commerce. As we all know, and Hansraj sir has also explained, supply chain is the lifeline that keeps every business moving. So I welcome Mr. Sarvartha Kanchan, the speaker for today's session. Let me introduce you and then we can hand over the mic to him. He is a thorough professional with 20 years of experience in digital transformation, omni-channel retail platform, logistics, distribution network, and manufacturing supply chain. Building Logistics, a purpose-driven company which will make a meaningful impact on a broader ecosystem. So his vision here is to enable small and medium-sized business seamless join the new age of commerce and grow profitably. And the mission is to create products that help business operate more efficiently and scale seamlessly as they grow. Honesty, empathy, risk taking, and the intent to add value to the society are the core pillars to the leadership style of Mr. Sarvartha Kanchal. So, over to you, sir.
Thank you, Kirti, and thank you everyone else. Thank you, Hansraji. I think you kind of touched upon all the key elements that
Absolutely.
are required for e-commerce to function smoothly. So, I mean, just to add, and I think being in the ecosystem for more than 20 years, I've seen supply chain and the entire planning process evolve from Excel sheets to actually AI-driven agent today. So things and technology have been changing really fast. I've seen how the evolution of GST and other norms around tax and structures have enabled this transformation in a big way in our country because um, I can tell you, being an alum of some of the international universities, also, I can tell you that whenever we talk about India in terms of the change in commerce and the growth of e-commerce ecosystem, we don't talk about actually how e-commerce supply chains work, but we actually talk about how the infrastructure was enabled and how the infrastructure transformation happened for us to be able to do something from days to minutes probably today, right? And I think that's the whole story, how India as a brand has developed its ecosystem through tax reforms, how it has developed the infrastructure, the roads, the warehouses, everything for that matter, to be able to support this kind of a phenomenal growth, right? So yeah, I would love to now probably get into the details. I would like this session to be as interactive as possible. So if there are any questions, any doubts, please feel free to talk about it, and we can take questions on the way as we speak. Yeah. So with that, I probably would like to present my screen and yeah, is everyone able to see my screen? Yeah.
Yeah, it's visible.
Yes,
Okay.
it's visible.
So
Yeah.
whenever it comes to e-commerce, right? Many a times I ask this question, and how do you think your order is being fulfilled, right? You sitting on an app, you just order something and it appears at your doorstep. But exactly how does it happen, right? Some people say that there's a warehouse somewhere from where my order is getting fulfilled. Some people will say that there's a seller who is selling somewhere nearby and he kind of enables to fulfill my order. There's also this transportation leg that is involved. There are riders, if there are items coming from different parts of the country, there is a huge transportation network that supports that. And then finally the order gets delivered to your home, right? It's very simple. The way you look at it, you think about it, you will say this is the simplest form of supply chain that can be there. But the moment you start clicking on it, the simple view is that yes, there is a warehouse, and there is a seller who's there on a marketplace, and from these warehouses it comes to the source, wherever it needs to get connected to the destination, from source to destination. If you are a national fulfillment person, you will basically know that there are different hubs that are involved. So it starts, suppose you're sitting in Delhi and you're ordering something from Chennai. So from Chennai, it starts, come to the source hub of Chennai, comes to Delhi through multiple hops, and from Delhi it kind of reaches to your doorstep, right? That's the simplistic view. But this is how the actual view is, right? It's probably not as simple as it looks. There's a lot of movements, handshakes, and a lot of different parties that are involved to be able to fulfill some order to your location, right? Um, in today's session, I will try to break this down for everyone so that everyone understands how the fulfillment leg actually looks like and how the entire supply chain movement happens to be able to fulfill something to your door, right? So let me just take away some of the complexities and just tell you how the overall distribution happens. So any warehouse which is basically fulfilling any kind of items that you order is sourcing these items from different brands and distributors, right? Now, it's critical here to understand that the role of planning team, the role of financial consultants becomes extremely important because we need to understand how and when and where at what cost to source these items from different distributors, right? If you don't get to understand the different items, the different codes, the different tax structures, the different ways in which the cost is impacted, fulfilling something like this becomes extremely difficult, right? So the planning plays a very important role, and in this planning cycle, the financial consultant plays a very important role because they need to figure out what's the cost of carrying this inventory and how will that get impacted with different cycles of fulfillment, right? Once you get an order to a warehouse, it goes to a source distribution hub. Now, in today's world of fast commerce, right, or quick commerce, these source distribution hubs are nothing but the dark stores or the warehouses that you keep hearing about. These are primarily those locations which are closer to the customer and to the warehouse, right? So many a times you would have seen in quick commerce when you order something, things appear to your doorstep in 5 minutes, but some things also appear to you in 15 minutes. That's because the way it has been designed, it either gets fulfilled from your closest location or a location which is slightly far off but has the required item for your doorstep deliveries, right? Is true in case of a local environment, but many a times the movements happen nationally, which is not typically quick commerce. This is what happens probably in case of a Amazon or a Flipkart, where things are stored across the country, and many a times things are getting sourced from different points in the country. And hence, in those cases, depending on the kind of services that they give, either a truck or a airline or a dedicated long haul kind of supports those kind of movements. Destination is where you are. So if, as I said initially, if I'm sitting in Delhi and I've ordered something from Chennai, the destination distribution hub is basically a Delhi distribution hub. A source distribution hub is a Chennai distribution hub, right? So that's the way to understand it. And finally, it goes to the last mile, which is the guy who actually picks up your order and delivers it at your doorstep. So that's typically the structure. Now, what you would also realize is because of these many handshakes, it's also very important for an e-commerce company to understand how their cost structures are, right? At every level, at every source, at every distribution, there is a handshake. There is certain time that gets spent in terms of processing an order. The order moves from air to surface to air and back to surface. Many a times there are these kind of movements that are happening, and hence it's very, very crucial to understand the cost of each activity and the cost that an item is incurring at each leg. And if we don't get to understand that very clearly, it also becomes very, very difficult from a profitability perspective to be able to judge exactly what will be my total fulfillment cost, right? So one is the procurement, which is where from we started, the distribution and brand, at what cost I bought it. And then the warehousing, which is storage cost. Then there is this handling cost, distribution cost, transportation cost, last mile cost, right? All of these costs get added to the overall shipment, and that's when you kind of predict and tell a price to a customer. Now, you must be wondering as a customer, when I see a app, I see consistent prices across, right? But then you would have also heard of newses where someone else is checking that in some other part of the city or country, and they see a different price for the same item. Now, this is precisely the reason why they see it like that. Because depending on your location, we predict the cost of an item that is getting fulfilled to you. Many a times when locations differ, the cost of fulfillment also differs, and hence the overall cost of the fulfillment and the product looks slightly different than from location A when you check it versus when you check it from location B. So there's this kind of dynamics that go behind building something which is very, very logical and machine learning oriented, where it keeps learning, saying from where the item will start, what prices it will incur, what cost it will incur through the way, and then when finally reaches the customer, what should be the price that the customer should pay for that item, right? And hence, um, I've heard a lot of criticisms at times as well, where people say that the prices are different at different locations, but honestly, there's a lot of science that goes behind it, and hence the prices differ. Okay, there are some exceptions where people see a Android phone showing a different price versus an iPhone. Now, those are some business ethics related thing. Again, something that should be controlled through the controllership, and the CAs of the company should actually put their foot down in terms of whether this is good or bad. And the pricing strategies they are an important part of that. So yes, there are some exceptions to this case, but in general, the way the science is designed is that bases the fulfillment, bases the journey that a shipment takes to reach to the end customer, the cost that it incurs, the end customer sees a final price. So that's why there are differences in prices, right? There are other elements also that get added. There are a lot of third-party logistics which are also involved in fulfilling. So it's not always like you would have heard of companies like Delivery they've done an IPO, they've been doing very well, Shadowfax, Express Bees, many other companies, Blue Dart, who are third-party logistics company, who basically come somewhere in between and pick up your packet and deliver it to you, because all these companies, it's highly impossible to cover all the geographies, all the pin codes in India, right? So they depend on some third-party logistics service providers who will basically pick up the item from some of these locations and then take it and directly deliver it to the end customer, right? Because if they don't have the reach internally, like a e-cart or Flipkart or a Amazon Transportation Services of ATS, if they don't have a network, they utilize the third-party logistic networks to be able to deliver that order to a customer sitting somewhere in the remote locations of Tamil Nadu or Uttar Pradesh or other states that you can think of. Now, this setup is this is how the conventional setup looks like. Now, if you look at what else happens in this e-commerce is there are sellers who are directly also selling it to you. So many a times the items are not stored in the warehouse, but it is getting sourced from the nearest seller who's located somewhere near you, right? And in that case, the warehouse is not involved. Seller does the storage, seller does the procurement and distribution from the distributors and the brands, and they then hand it over to either a third party logistics Or some of these companies like Amazon, Flipkart have their own first mile services, which is primarily picking the items up from the seller and bringing it to their distribution center. So that's called first mile, right? So first mile is primarily procurement of items either from the distributor or brands to the warehouse, or it may also involve picking up items from the sellers and bringing it into your own distribution hub. So these kind of uh, facilities are given as marketplace models have evolved, and sellers do not have their own capabilities to fulfill this order. Now, this is one thing that would be probably seen as a differentiator in the future, because today, if you realize, everything is stored in a warehouse, even in a quick commerce setup, and it is then distributed from that warehouse to you as a customer. But tomorrow, if this really has to scale with the right economics, it will become important that rather than trying to bring everything into a central location, which is very costly, you primarily start fulfilling. Or today, I mean, a great example of that is the Zomatos and the Swiggies of the world, right? They source everything from the restaurants which are close by. Similarly, there are changes happening wherein even these daily necessities and daily needs and whatever you want, which basically what you are ordering from the quick commerce websites and apps, very soon there will be a seller base that will become active around you on those platforms, and these items will start getting fulfilled from there. Again, it has its own challenges. When you're bringing something into a central location, you have better control on quality, the product distribution, and things like that, even the inventory, right? But the moment you start taking away that control and start trusting the seller with those items, um, it becomes slightly more difficult to control the quality of the whole product, or even the inventories that the sellers are saying that they have so much inventory. Even to ensure that the inventories are present at times becomes a challenge, right? So hence you will see sometimes order cancellations happening, people saying that the item is not available and things like that. So yeah, technology is evolving at a very fast pace as we speak, and as the technology keeps evolving, there are solutions that people are coming up with, which will solve for these problems as well. Uh, in a big way, what we do at Logistics is helping these sellers to get online and manage their entire inventories, logistics, all of that, to be able to sell from an end-to-end perspective. But yeah, it has its own challenges, and hence the prime objective, which is the end customer experience, needs to be protected when you opt for any of the strategies that are shown in this diagram, right? And yeah, so that's pretty much at this point in time. If there are any questions, I can take those questions. Is there anything? Kirti, anything? Any questions, or should I just continue?
You can continue, Sarvat. No questions so far.
Okay. Uh, okay.
Okay,
So
sorry. There's
yeah.
one that I have just received. So somebody wants to know how to assure uninterrupted supply chain with the help of AI.
Yeah, so I mean AI in case of supply chain, when you say uninterrupted, we'll have to define that a little bit. I think
Mm,
uninterrupted, when you say, you mean to say that there is continuous replenishment of items which are in demand. Hence, if an end customer is ordering that, how do I make sure that every time when someone is ordering something, it's not out of stock? That is a
yeah.
big problem that you see many a times with many of these platforms. I assume that's the context with which the question is being asked, and AI is going to play a very, very big role in that, right?
Hmm.
Today, the way we have another venture with a lot of platforms that are coming up, and especially one that I'll name is Nikos, and they've been working under the covers. They are a native AI commerce operating system, but they are the ones who are premiering the usage of AI into supply chain, into all angles of commerce, right? Even even something that you see as a digital catalog on your a product catalog on your mobile screen, they are the ones who basically using AI in a big time to be able to help people to convert their products into a digital catalog. And after doing that, they help them do the prediction of those in terms of planning, inventory placements. How do you do that so that um, your orders are not lost, or as someone said, it remains
Mm.
uninterrupted in terms of the flow
Mm.
of products, right? So yeah, a lot of tools and techniques are being used today in the historic world. It was done, as I said, more Excel based, and then the
Right.
evolution of machine learning solved it to a certain extent. But
True.
I think even then we see continue to see there are interruptions, there are stock outs, items not available, and things like that. But with AI, I would not say it will be 100%, but I am 101% sure that it will be operating at a 99.9995% level, right? So yeah, that's how it should be.
Context of AI here is more in terms of AI agents plus the backend solutioning. Is that what you're
Yes,
referring to? All
yes.
right. All
So
right.
agentic is basically where uh, all of this is changing in a big way, right?
Mm. Right.
Because when it comes to agentic AI, it's important to call out the difference between agentic and agents, right?
Mm. Mm.
Agents are primarily people like someone, there will be an agent who will be doing just the planning, right?
Mm.
There will
Mm.
be an agent who knows from where to source this item, who's the seller, right? There'll be another agent which will know how to fulfill this item, right? So there are multiple agents generally that come into a value chain when you're looking at
Right.
a end-to-end journey, right? And the agentic AI is primarily a orchestrator which is sitting on top of this agent, which will continue to see the demand patterns. It will look at the sales agent, it will oversee the demand planning agent, it will oversee the fulfillment agent, right? The procurement agent, and it will orchestrate that entire interaction between the agents to be able to fulfill, first understand the demand, how it's moving, where there will be
Right.
a stock out situation, then for that
Right.
stock out, what's the planning agent's plan to meet that stock out situation? Then go and see, okay, is the order placed? Is the seller fulfilling it? Is it coming on time? So that the customer sees an uninterrupted supply chain. So agentic is more orchestrator,
Mm.
which is
Mm.
on top. Agents are
Right.
more input output driven, right? So
Okay.
that's the difference. And yes, with agentic commerce and agentic AI coming in, all of these problems will get resolved in a big way.
Yeah. There's one more similar question that somebody has asked. They're saying, explain the role of digital technologies. For example, AI we just discussed, and the other ones are IoT, RFID, and blockchain in strengthening e-commerce supply chain.
Uh, IoT, as we said, is about monitoring and placing sensors so that all the information is digitally available in a central repository, right? So whether it is monitoring stock levels or whether it is monitoring movement of trucks, I think these are all honestly being used for many years now, right?
Right.
RFIDs, IoTs,
Yes.
when I'm talking about the new digital technologies are primarily the agentic AI,
Right.
the proliferation of AI agents in monitoring all of this data. So evolution has happened in multiple phases, right? First, it was
Right.
creation of the warehouses and building a WMS system, right? After the WMS system was built, then came the IoTs and the RFIDs and all of that, so that the items can be tracked, traced where they are,
Yeah.
how the entire movement happens in terms of the overall shipment in the supply chain. And that's how you were able to see on your mobile device where my item is, when is it coming, and things like that.
Yes. Yes.
Now the third level of evolution is happening where basically all of this becomes AI driven, where you don't no longer have to depend on a human to respond to you. Your
Right.
queries will be solved faster, more accurately, with the help of the data that is coming from these IoT devices, from these RFIDs and all other aspects. So yes, digital technology is evolving as we speak. In last 2.5 years, we've seen a huge shift in the landscape of digital technologies. Many things that were innovative 2.5 years back have become primitive today. Right. So yeah, it's a very broad question. I mean, I can go on and
Yeah.
on, but yeah, I think that's
Yeah,
that's
true.
that's how it is.
Fair point. One more question we'll pick up, then we'll move on.
Sure.
Define last mile delivery. Why is it considered the costliest and the most challenging part of e-commerce supply chain?
That is the place where a customer meets someone external and allows someone external to get inside their home at times, right?
Right.
And that's where the most complication happens. Being a customer ourselves, we know many a time someone appears on our doorsteps where we don't even feel like opening the door.
True.
Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think that the challenge is that that is where there there in the entire e-commerce journey, there is only two things, or let me say three things that touch the customer, right? One is the fancy application that you see on your mobile phone or the web application that you see on an internet site. The second thing is the actual product, and the
Yes.
third thing is the last mile delivery agent, right? So there are these three things that touch your customer in some ways or the other, right? Which interact with your customers in some ways or the other. Hence, to be able to maintain the product quality is costly. To maintain the platform is costly, and the last question
Ah,
probably gets answered by this.
right.
The last
Right.
mile also becomes very costly because you need to
Expensive.
train
Yeah.
people, you need to make sure they're well groomed, you need to make sure that they appear in the right shape and form in front of
True.
people,
Very true.
right?
Yeah.
So just to manage the interaction between the end customer and the last mile agent, while it looks to be a very simple
Yeah.
dynamics, but it's very, very difficult to make sure that the right quality of people are reaching you,
Right.
and hence the filtering mechanism, the training mechanism, the grooming mechanisms, all of this along with the technology that is provided to them to be able to update things
Mm.
in real time. See,
Yeah.
anywhere else, if there is a lag, you can cover it. But in last
Yeah.
mile, if a guy says, I want to pay through UPI, and the mobile application is just not throwing the QR code, that's
Yeah.
also a big letdown, right?
Very true.
So
Yes.
hence, everything that you are doing from a last mile perspective touches the customer. Uh,
Mm.
Anything that touches the customer is typically costly.
Great. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Please.
Great. Okay. So I honestly don't have much. It's just the fundamental building blocks. I think it's very, very important when you're doing e-commerce to have the right assortment. What type of products are available on the platforms? In case you want to do really well, there are two things that matter. One is definitely if you have the right assortment and the exclusivity with you, that works in your favor. And the second thing that works in your favor is obviously the fulfillment and the last mile, right? Which is the most costly part of the supply chain. But um, that has also very become a differentiator now in case of quick commerce and things like that. So how fast are you able to fulfill, and what assortment do you carry, and what inventories do you carry on your application? I think that decides most of it. Price, I had explained as I was explaining the in the earlier legs. India is a very cost sensitive market. People switch brands, people switch shops, people switch their mobile phones because of cost, right? So, uh, cost is a very important element in terms of how you're looking at the overall piece, and hence that's another overhead and important element for you to look at from a cost perspective, how it impacts your overall supply chain and fulfillment in e-commerce. Delivery experience, I think that's as the question was asked, what is the delivery experience and why is the last mile most expensive? I think both from the optionality of choosing different type of whether I want something in 10 minutes to whether I want something tomorrow, giving that kind of optionality and then backing it up with a reliable performance and ensuring as I just explained, the last mile experience for the customers is very, very important, right? And also one of the important element that's missed by many of the new age platforms, and they learn it the hard way, is the after sales experience, because not every experience is perfect, not every product is perfect. After you deliver something to your end customer, how do you take care of their services? How do you take care of their returns, replacements, refunds, right? There's so many different anxieties that a customer goes through. So after sales experience is also very, very important in order to build the entire e-commerce business. Yeah. So that's pretty much what I had from a presentation perspective. I've tried to keep it short and sweet, but as I'll be very, very happy to answer questions if there are any more questions that are coming in.
Yeah, we'll just wait for the questions to pour in.
Sure.
Just allow us some time, please. So we have another question which says, discuss the risks and controls in e-commerce supply chain from an audit perspective.
That's a very broad question, but I'll try to quickly summarize probably. Um, when you look at it from a audit perspective, there are multiple risks that are there, right? Number one is the classification of goods itself, right? In terms of at what are the goods that you're procuring, under what classification do they fall? That because of the GST norms and all of that, it's very, very important that each product is classified in the right category, right? And many a times, because the norms keep changing as well, it's important to create that as a dynamic piece, right? Where you can keep changing, keep switching between the contexts in terms of how they are changing. So one of the important things is classification of products, so that you don't end up doing the wrong GST classification, and hence the tax liabilities shouldn't be getting messed up. The second important aspect is inventory controls. It'll be very, very important to show the consumption of goods in the right way, which basically means right from inwarding to the time an order is placed to the time you ship something out, and when you do the entire balancing act in terms of what came into what went out and now what's remaining. It's important to have that mathematically and scientifically very correctly defined, right? And that's where, I mean, all of these are being done by different systems today, and a lot of digital technologies exist to do it. But these are important aspects when someone says that we have to look at it from an audit's perspective, right? The third important element of the entire thing would be around how you're creating your entire customer invoice. Many a times people end up making mistakes in IGSTs, CGSTs, and things like that. Also, when they're doing bundling, when they're doing offers, one pay, one free, discounts being offered, how do you consider for all of these things in your accounting, right? This is not as easy as it seems. We For a customer, it's just a 10% discount, but many a times, how do you roll that discount down to an item level? When someone has ordered 20 different items, how do you roll it down to each item? How do you manage your books for all of that? I think it's a big mess. It's not as easy as it looks.
Also, just a question like, because everything is more system driven, you're more dependent on system. So systems audit is also
I
critical.
was coming
What
to
has
that.
been,
Yeah, that
okay.
was the last point that I would have said, because
Yeah,
as
okay.
I've been saying each and every element of this, I think I've been using systems are there, and then at the end I would have said that, but you just said
Yeah.
it right now. So this is
Okay.
the ensuring the right systems and having the right systems
Yeah.
audit, having the
Let,
one, your systems are, how vulnerable your systems are, how deeply they are tested for different penetration techniques and stuff like
yes.
that, right?
So true.
So it's very, very crucial. People have financial consultants sitting with them, the big four consultants sitting with them and designing their workflows and the systems to be able to make sure that the accounting and all the other aspects of monitoring is kind of in place. Otherwise, the biggest challenge is when you start depending on a system, how well your
Right.
system is responding to all of this, right? So
True.
I think that's very, very important. You just said it, Ankita. So that's
Sorry, I
another.
took away the last one.
No, no, no. Just on another thing, I think from an audit's perspective, and that is very important, is the wage management and the labor management, right? Because you are having so many different labors and different touch points and different people working for you, different contractors working for you, some on roll, some on daily wages, and there's so many different aspects of this engagement that you have with the workforces that you have, and hence even ensuring the compliance there, whether it's all the employment related compliances, the EPFs, the payouts, the minimum wage requirements and stuff like that. It's very, very critical. I've seen many good companies going down in their audits just because they did not follow the workforce management
Yeah, true.
norms, right? So yeah, there's just so many elements to it. Probably covering it in this short session might be slightly difficult, but I think these are the key elements. And as you said, the system is the most important layer on top of everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. The next question is, what is bullwhip effect? How is it magnified or reduced in online retail?
Bullwhip effect is a typical effect of over planning and everyone trying to cushion their own thing. I think just Google it. These questions, ask ChatGPT, they'll give
Okay.
you the best answers. But because these are not
All right.
contextual, these are all theoretical questions. In
Okay.
real context, things, it's just like this, right? Think of you doing your financial planning, and in everything that you plan for, you add a little extra in terms of buffer, right? But what happens is these buffers then get multiplied by the subsequent step buffers and become a very big part of your overall financial plan. I think all of you would have seen at some point or the other. Bullwhip effect is something similar when you plan for inventories, right? When you're planning for inventory at every point, every location, right, starting from procurement till the point of use, right? Yeah, there are different levels at which inventory is planned, and hence when you start
Yeah.
from planning a buffer right at the last point, and you start multiplying it backwards to start from the first point, many a
Mm.
times your inventory buffers actually become very, very big, and they
Right.
inflate your cost, right? And
Yes.
so that's primarily what bullwhip effect is. So I'm not discouraging any such questions, but yeah, these are all chat GPT answers that you can get.
Okay. Moving on. So another question is that describe the role and benefits of distribution centers and fulfillment centers in e-commerce.
Yeah, so as I showed in the slides initially, fulfillment centers are mostly see, right now these words being used for different places across by different people differently, right? Um, but in true sense, if you want to understand what a fulfillment system is
Mm.
typically a warehousing system, which
Mhm.
primarily has the overall warehouse, right? Yeah, just 1 minute. I just
Yeah,
just
sure.
Yeah, sorry, just got a um, so fulfillment centers primarily the way we look at it in the conventional ways of defining it is primarily a warehouse, right?
Right.
And that typically means that it is something where all the goods are stored in bulk,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
Now these fulfillment systems have been further broken out into different forms and shapes and sizes, right? Uh, there's some fulfillment centers which are the conventional world fulfillment centers known as deep reserves. Now, deep reserves are
Yeah.
generally places where you directly procure in bulk from the manufacturers, from the distributors, and things come generally in bulk, right? You don't get a 500 pieces of something in a deep reserve. You will get at
Okay.
least thousands and lakhs of pieces in a deep reserve, right? Then
So
from a
more
deep
like a wholesale setup than a
it's like more like a wholesale setup, right? Like a typical warehouse of an FMCG company, the way
right,
you would look at, right? So
right.
that's those are deep reserves. Then
Okay.
they generally move towards further towards closer to the customer. So from deep reserves, they become regional warehouses, or at times
Right.
called as distribution centers as well, right?
Okay.
Because from here now the items are getting distributed into different parts of the
Right.
value chain, right? So they call it, many people call it distribution centers, many people call it warehouses.
Okay.
Many people change the meaning of distribution centers, replace it with a transportation center as well. So what a transportation
Okay.
center does is it will get say 100 of bags from a deep reserve and then break
Mm-hmm.
it and transport it to different parts of the country. Now that's also in a way
Understood.
kind of a distribution, right?
Right.
But that is also
Right.
being said as a distribution center, right?
It's part of the value chain, but
It's
not
part of the
the
value chain
last.
wherever there is some kind of happening from
Hmm.
different nodes or segregation happening for different nodes, right?
Right. Right.
Both from an input and output perspective, those are generally distribution centers. And any of the distribution centers which also have these storage facilities available with them will be called as fulfillment centers, right?
Okay.
So
All right.
this is how the entire thing is. But yes, it's a very loosely used term in the
Okay.
overall value chain, and people keep using it for different things. Many people call the last mile delivery centers as distribution centers. Now,
Okay.
in the true sense, if you see, even that is a distribution center because generally a bulk load comes in and then it gets distributed to the end customer, right? So you can
Right.
call it, there's
Right.
nothing right or wrong about it. But
Okay.
it's important to understand that distribution centers will have something to do with incoming and outgoing segregation, aggregation of load, whereas fulfillment centers will also have storage available with them, which is basically the typical warehousing construct. Yeah,
Understood.
that's pretty much what it is. So I hope I've
Okay.
answered the question. So, well done.
Yeah. Moving on, somebody has asked, what is inventory optimization? Explain it with reference to JIT, EOQ, and safety stock in online retail.
Wow. Again, a chat GPT question probably. But I would try to give more real life examples to be able to relate to what you say as and all of us are financial analysts here, so we all do financial planning, right? So here is the thing. Inventory optimization is nothing but like cash flow optimization, right? What you primarily do is you try to spend as late as possible and receive as quickly as possible, right? So that you can conserve more cash, whether it's personal
Right.
financial planning or professional financial planning.
Right.
I'm sorry I'm stepping into the zone of CAs, but I
No,
feel
no problem. Please, not
but
at all.
typically that's my understanding of cash flow optimization, right? And that's the way we do inventory optimizations as well. We classify inventory. Now, how do you do cash flow or inventory optimization? Is you classify them into different categories, different spends into different categories, different items into different categories, and you see which item I can store um, as less as possible, which item I can store more. And these are typically driven by the lead times that these items take to come into your stock, right? So if the lead time of a particular item is very high, you would like to store more of those items in your inventory, right?
Mhm.
But if a lead time of some item is very low and you can procure
Mm.
it just in time, which is the JIT concept, right?
Right. Right.
Then you would like to plan for it as low as possible, depending on the demand, right? I mean, when I say planning, demand is a given. I am not using the term demands here because planning is always done on a demand. If demand is not there, you won't plan. So
Right.
demand is a very important vector that plays a role in the overall planning process. But typically when I'm saying something with high lead time, we know the demand. When I say something is something with low lead time, we know the demand, and hence we plan for it accordingly, right? So just in time as a concept is something where either something is located very close, which you can actually procure in minutes time, uh,
Mm.
on demand, right? Or or your warehouse is next to a manufacturer. So look, warehouse, right? So you can get it whenever you want. So just in time, typically like in an automobile setup, this is used a lot. Toyota works on just in time concepts, right?
Okay.
So just in time is most about vendor managed inventory. We call it VMI, which is a vendor
Okay.
is actually keeping the inventory for you, but whenever you need it, it arrives at your doorstep just in time. Right.
Right.
Economic order quantity is primarily, I think EOQ is the word that was used. So economic order quantity is primarily the 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 minimum order quantity, if I may say so, right? It's linked with the minimum order quantity. The only factor that gets added on top of minimum order quantity is your safety stock, right? So if you are planning with a certain amount of safety stock that you need to have in your inventory, then you basically have MOQ plus safety stocks, kind of combining together, making it an economic order quantity, and primarily to always ensure that you don't end up in a stock out. So the idea is that in essence, right? I'm trying to explain it conceptually as much as possible. Definitions and formulas and all of that again can be looked up online. I don't think that's a problem
Right.
at all in today's world.
Sure.
Understanding the concept is a bigger problem in today's world. I think it's important to
Right.
understand that. Yeah.
A lot of
I don't remember
times,
the third
yeah,
point that was there,
yeah,
EOQ and
safety stock you mentioned already.
okay.
So you mentioned
So
about
the
safety
concept of
stock.
safety stock is primarily that you know what your lead times for fulfillment are, you know how
Mm.
your demand is, you know your inventory classification, and hence basis all of these three things, the inventory carrying value and all of that, you kind of
Right.
define as minimum stock, which is nothing but a safety stock for you. Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
Um, there's some, okay. The next one is, it said a company plans to switch from traditional warehouses to automated fulfillment centers. So do you want to understand the advantages, challenges, and cost implications?
Uh, so again, conceptually, I'll try to explain this.
Yeah.
Difficult to actually get into bullet points and tell exactly what
Yeah.
it is.
No
Uh,
worries. Yeah.
so you have a typical warehouse, a conventional warehouse, if I may call it. Even in a
Yeah.
conventional warehouse, people do use it very loosely. It's not like a conventional warehouse, you don't know where what is stored, right? Or you don't
Okay.
know at what
Yeah.
location what is stored, right? In a
Right.
digital
Right.
fulfillment center, what happens is a lot of this information is not on those manual worksheets or on someone's mind, but it's available on a digital system where the system knows exactly what is the quantity of the units that you have, where are those quantities being stored, um,
Right.
at what location, what amount of material is available. Um, in a digital fulfillment center, your guy in a fulfillment center doesn't go around carrying a slip in his hand. He basically has a handheld device which basically
True.
keeps guiding it on real time basis his location, basis the incoming orders. It will optimize his pick path, right? In terms of where does he go, how does he pick, what quantities does he pick. All of that is being done in real time, right? So the
Right.
digital center obviously makes it from a conventional to a digital fulfillment center. I have seen, I have done it myself. I was part of the core team that built eCart for Flipkart. So
Okay.
when we did that from conventional to a digital, um, my order to dispatch cycle times reduced by 70 to 80%, right? So that's the kind of impact a mm, but to build something like that, the cost is enormous. So when someone says cost implications, you invest for the future, you don't invest for ROIs. Let me make it very, very
Right.
clear. The
Right.
conventional method of ROIs will not be able to justify that kind of an expense. The expenses are very, very large. You transform the overall warehouse full footprint, you put IoT devices, you have handheld devices, your entire WMS systems undergoes for a change, which is very, very expensive. Um,
Yeah.
but once you kind of implement that, only after implementing something like that over the course of 5 to 10 years is when you will realize the direct benefit in terms of ROI. But when you start looking at the non-tangible ones, which is customer experience, the speed of fulfillment, and the repeat buys that you start getting in, there's no proper science. There are always ways to figure out. Everything has a financial number to it, but there is no proper science that will be able to tell you exactly how it works, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, there are challenges there, and it has its own ways of doing things.
I think another big advantage is because everything is digitized, like you have a lot of customer information, which is very valuable
Yes,
for
yes.
any
As I
e-commerce
said, it
outfit.
manifests itself over years.
Yeah, yeah.
If you
So,
start
yeah.
sitting today and trying to say, ki, "Acha, what will be the cost of this customer information that I have?" Honestly,
Yeah.
there's no way to, matlab, there are ways you can always do it, but if you ask
Yeah.
me, is there an accurate way? I mean, I'm being a non-CA, I can puncture that entire estimation for you. That I can assure you. But I'm sure someone more learned and someone with more financial etiquettes will be able to draw even more bullets into that. So I think, yeah, I think it's very
Yeah.
difficult to kind of put a number to it. But I can assure you that it gives you phenomenal. I mean, many of these new age companies, you see how they are being valued, or why are they being valued at such high numbers, right? There's always a controversy around it.
Yeah,
But
yeah. Always, yes.
always, right? So I think, but what people don't realize is they have millions and millions of customers who are transacting on a daily level, right? And just Flipkart does 4 million orders per day, right? So if they're doing 4 million orders per day, that means more than million customers are transacting every day on that platform, right?
Right.
And hence putting
Right.
a value to that is mostly notional than actual,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So that's how it works.
True.
Yeah.
Okay, somebody wants to know what is cross-docking and how does it reduce inventory costs?
Cross docking is a slightly more advanced use case of inventory planning. And
Okay.
how well do you plan your supply chain network actually, rather than anything else? There are
Okay.
very few people who understand there is something called as network optimization as well. So like the way inventory optimization is one topic, there is another topic in supply chain, especially in today's supply chain, which is called network design. Now, network optimization primarily means that um, how do I make sure that there are minimum touches that are happening to an item when it is moving from point A to point B? Now, I'll tell you the financial way of looking at it. The lesser the number of touch
Hmm.
points, the
Hmm.
lesser the number of processing happening on that items, and hence the lesser the number of cost elements that get added to that item, right?
And does it impact the quality of what is being passed around?
It can have an impact to that as well. It does. So that's a good question. It
May not
definitely
be
will have.
perishable, but still, let's say a pillow, if
Correct.
it's moving around by, in 10 places instead,
And
if
everyone
one
is
can reduce
touching
it
it,
to,
everyone is opening it, everyone
yeah,
is packing it, right? it,
yeah.
it kind of creates so many different touch points that ultimately the product quality suffers if there are more touch points, right? But today the way things are packed, generally once it is packed, it's opened by the end customer only, so that to that extent will not be that bigger a problem, but it
Yeah.
definitely is a problem. So I think that's a very valid point. But I think the idea is that the box which is coming to your doorstep, right? How many people are touching that box, how many handshakes that box is going through, and how many times it is being scanned by someone, right? Because that has a barcode on it, right? So so the number of times you do that process on a box, the more and more costs keep added. As I was showing you in the initial diagram, there are multiple touch points. The more people touch it, the more the cost of the overall goods, right? Because more labor cost is getting added, variable cost is
Right.
getting added, and things like that.
Right.
So
Right.
hence the concept of cross-dock is you kind of create something for the end consumer, pack it in such a way that it only gets opened at the end point. So when it is getting transported from point A to point B, no one has to open the bag again, scan all the shipments, further segregate it, and then, further process it, create a bag for an end destination. So from the source itself, when you're trying to make a bag, you're making it, or you're making an I'm using bag, by the way, I keep using this word a lot. So let me explain a bag. What is a bag? Bag is just like
Okay.
a pallet, the entity that you create as which is a superset of multiple items, right? You generally have these pallets in the warehouses, or in case of e-commerce, we generally call it bags. So we basically put multiple shipments in one bag, right? To be able to transport it. I don't transport everything in open condition. I generally put it in a bag or a box and then ship it to the end location, right? So when I'm making a bag or a box in such a way that it doesn't have to be opened and reprocessed in intermediate touch points, I am primarily using the concept of cross-dock. Cross-dock means that item came in and just went out, right? It didn't have to be opened, it didn't have to be processed, it didn't have to be stored. It just comes and goes away, and hence crossdock is very, very efficient from an overall speed enhancement perspective. It also reduces the cost of the overall shipment, right?
So
That's
does
one.
it also mean that packaging cost increases when you are trying to create a cross-dock situation?
Not exactly. In fact, in a way, if you look at the overall packaging, not from an
Hmm.
end customer perspective, but the usage of packaging materials by different legs in the supply chain, it actually comes
Hmm.
down. Because now what you're
Okay.
doing is you're not opening a secondary bag, removing items from it, and then creating a new bag again. So the number of bags that you are utilizing in the overall supply chain comes down. So in a way, your costs actually come down. It doesn't
Okay.
increase. Yeah.
Understood. Okay.
Right.
Another next one is, what are the GST implications on e-commerce supply chain, including TCS under, okay, it's under Section 52 of CGST Act. It's more
No idea.
specific.
No idea
Okay.
what this means. I'm very sorry.
No
Uh,
problem.
not
I
looking
think
at tax.
maybe one of our, yeah, we'll pass it on to one of our indirect tax consultants.
Yes, I think that will be a better person to answer.
Yeah. No worries. Okay, I'll take the next one. What are the key KPIs for evaluating e-commerce SCM efficiency? Like fill rate, OTIF, RTO, lead
Yeah.
time, etc.
So there are multiple matrices to look at e-commerce. See, supply chain operations is a pretty complicated thing, and I have seen people make it a lot more complicated as they kind of run operations. But if I have to keep it simple, the most important metric for supply chain efficiency, if you have to look at, number one is the cost of fulfillment, in terms of how much is the total cost that you incur in order to fulfill a single order, right? Now, if you are taking cost of fulfillment as a primary metric, you will have to optimize for every touch point. You will have to make sure that the items do not go through multiple transportations and stuff like that, so that your overall cost can remain as low as possible, right? So one of the things is cost. The second most important metric is how the customer perceives your delivery experience, right? You can call it a delivery NPS in some ways. Many people, if you see many of these apps, then when they come to you, a customer is asked, as a customer, you would have seen, how was your delivery experience? Rate the delivery experience. They don't say the product experience, they said rate your delivery experience, right? Now, if a customer is giving you a thumbs up on your delivery experience, no matter what you're doing at the back end, your supply chain experience is extremely, extremely good, right? So if you're not delivering a order on time in full, which is the OTIF metric, or if you're not doing something, um I don't know, so there was some things that you mentioned. There was OTIF mentioned, and there were some other things also that was mentioned when you were
Yeah, I
um,
mentioned fill rate. I think you've already explained.
right. So
Fulfillment rate is the
correct.
same, right?
Yeah. So fill
Yes.
rate, if it's not up to the mark, you will never be able to fulfill the orders on time. So all of these aspects, if you're not doing it correctly at the back end, these are all, I would say, secondary matrices. The primary
Okay.
metric for you is the cost of fulfillment and the
Okay.
customer delivery NPS, right? If these two things are
Okay.
good, as a supply
Okay.
chain head, because That's those are the important things that I look at, right? And the third important thing that I also look at as a supply chain head is primarily the breach. When I say breach, it's the breach of promise. I did a promise to you that I'll deliver something to you in 5 minutes, or I did a promise to you that I'll deliver something on a particular date to you. Now, did that promise get fulfilled or not when the item really got delivered? If it's not getting met, I call it a breach of promise. And hence, as a supply chain head, the third most important metric that I look at is the breach, right? So these are the three important management level matrices. Obviously, to make it happen, you have to make sure fill rates are proper, on time in full, your number of handshakes, your number of scans, and everything that goes into further building these matrices, right? Has to be looked at in detail. But yeah, from a top level, these are the three most important metrics that I look at.
Okay. There's another metric that RTO lead time, on those lines, if there's something you can help us understand better.
So RTO is a return to origin, where basically many a times in an e-commerce environment, returns is a huge, huge issue, right? Returns are a issue in both ways. Someone gives me an address, I ship that order to the end customer, and the end customer is not there or not willing to receive it or anything like that. It causes a return, which means basically it's called return to origin, right? Where the item is not even delivered and it's returned to the origin, right? So again, this increases my overall supply chain cost, my fulfillment cost. The higher the returns, you understand, right? It's going in a forward leg, then it's coming back in a reverse leg. Plus, many a times in the reverse leg, the items may get damaged. So when I
Right.
said the total cost of fulfillment, all of this is covered under the total cost of fulfillment, the front cost and the
Okay.
reverse cost, right?
Okay.
Along with damages or pilferages that are happening. Now, another killer to the overall efficiency is also the reverse pickups, where reverse pickups is when you have got something at your doorstep and now you
Uh-huh.
say, I want to return it, right? This is an even bigger problem statement because
Okay.
many a times you get item A, but you return item B as a customer, right? So there is no way to figure out how to make sure that, and that's why you see all the hassle, right? People keep complaining, अरे वो तो tag मांग रहा था, अरे उसने तो image
Ah,
मांगा मेरे से, अरे वो
right.
तो मैं item दे रहे था उसने लिया ही नहीं. So all of those kind of
Okay.
complaints that you hear is primarily when we have put in controls like while doing a reverse pickup, you check for these items, right? And the check, if he is not getting those items, he'll not pick up your reverse shipment, right? So these are very big costs, and all of this gets covered as a part of fulfillment cost. When I say
Okay.
as a supply chain head, I look at overall fulfillment cost. All of this is kind of covered in this. Lead times is primarily the time that you take to bring something into stock, or right, whether it's getting procured from a seller or when it is a reverse item also which is coming back, you would ideally want to bring that item back into your stock and sell it again, right? Until unless it's damaged or if there's a pilferage, then there is another way of managing it. So all of this is part of the, as I said, these are all input matrices to building something which is called the cost of fulfillment. And when you look at each of these elements, you will realize that each of these aspects impact the cost of fulfillment. So yeah, return is another nightmare for e-commerce, even from a sustainability perspective, which is one of the important factors that people were talking about. Returns causes the biggest waste generation in e-commerce,
Okay.
right? Because it's not only forward packaging, there's a reverse packaging that happens. Many a times people send it in poly bags and things like that. Even though we try to send things in a cardboard box packed with paper waste and things like that. But even when people are returning it, they return it in a poly bag, right? So and all of that becomes a waste. If the item is damaged, it becomes a waste, right? So the biggest
Yes.
waste generation in e-commerce, if you ask me what it is actually the reverse, the returns. But that's also a reality. You can't run e-commerce without
Yeah.
returns. You will
You go,
have to
you
account.
you guys have spoiled the customers like how now you can't blame them.
No, 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 not at all. I think I was not at all doing that.
No, no,
My
I'm
my whole idea
just
was to tell
joking.
you, yeah, my whole idea was to tell you that returns causes from a sustainability perspective, it causes a massive challenge on e-commerce.
Yes.
At the same time, it's a reality of e-commerce, because in e-commerce you don't touch and feel anything. You order something by looking at a picture, so returns is going to be a
Right.
reality. Now, how do you
Right.
make it more real is where again AI is playing a very important role. So
Yeah.
let's see how with AI
But
we can.
honestly, just one thought that I want to share. So, we've been looking at more AI-driven pictures when we go to e-commerce websites or apps. And those are far more, sharper images or more beautiful looking or more attractive
Mhm.
vis-a-vis the actual
Actual
product,
product
which
that comes in. Yeah.
yeah. So that again becomes a bit of a challenge because, when you have a better lens that is capturing the image,
Hmm.
then what is, going to
Yeah,
be
that's been a
expected? That
big
is,
debate. That's been a big debate topic, that whether we should be using AI models to generate images or not, right? It has its advantages and disadvantages. Obviously, from an e-commerce perspective, getting a model, doing a photo shoot is a huge cost, right? And any item that you see, it's at least 1,000 rupees that you spend on a picture, right?
oh, wow,
Just to get that item up and running.
that's a lot of,
That's a lot of
yeah,
money, but not for every
for
item. You
one
incur it as
product.
a one-time cost for listing that item, but
Yeah.
obviously it's a big cost, right? So
Yes.
again, when you look at different people, different groups that are trying to solve it, AI came out as one of the lifesavers in terms of trying to avoid that cost. But what it has done in turn is people who are using it with the wrong intent, they have kind of
Yeah.
amplified their product images and creatives
Yes.
in such a way that it is creating a wrong perception of quality in the end
Yes.
user's mindset, right?
And
Uh,
eventually, what happens is, the user starts losing trust, and that's where, the fallout
the
happens. And
returns
then you
and
start,
everything kinds of, yeah.
yes. And
So
then,
yeah, it's a vicious
what are,
cycle.
yeah, it's, yeah. All right, yeah. Okay, so somebody's asking, explain reverse logistics in e-commerce. Okay, we
I
already
think I
discussed
think I I
this.
think I kind of
Yeah,
answered that when I was talking about this. I hope he got the
yeah. Why
answer.
is
If
handling
there's
returns
something,
complex? We did discuss this.
yeah.
Yeah.
So if anyone
So
has a
I'll move on to
specific
the next
question,
one.
something more specific, please feel free to drop it in the chat box. But otherwise, I think we
Yes.
covered that. Yeah.
Now explain the role of WMS and TMS, warehouse management system and transport management system.
Warehouse management system is primarily the one that I was talking about, which does the entire warehouse inventory monitoring. It is connected with sensors,
Yes.
IoT, so that it tells you which shelves are empty, which shelves are full, what kind of items are where. And when an order comes in, it also tells you from where to fulfill that order, which warehouse, which location. When you have multiple locations, the WMSs are clubbed with order management system. There is another element to WMS which is called OMS, which is order management system. They figure out which is the shortest path for fulfillment. They will direct that order to the right warehouse, and then all these warehouses are connected, interconnected, and they look at where inventory is available, where which item is there, and hence for a end user, from where this item should be shipped, right? So all of those decision makings are part of WMSs. Plus WMSs also have a critical component of picking up an item and packaging that item and dispatching that item for the end user, right? So all of these elements are part of WMS, and transport management system is primarily after the WMS's dispatches. Uh, the entire monitoring of those items and deciding which route an item should take, right? If something is coming from Chennai to Delhi, should it come directly from Chennai to Delhi, or should it come from Chennai to Bangalore, then Bangalore to say Indore, and then Indore to Delhi, right? So all of those decisions are being made by a transportation management system. It monitors your truck movements, it monitors your load movements, and these are again connected with GPS devices, IoT devices, gives you details in terms of where the item is at what point in time, and
Yeah. All right. There are a couple of accounting related questions. I will pass it for now because they're very specific to the technical accounting standards. So I'll skip those.
sure.
There's another one which says, how does effective supply chain planning reduce holding costs? logistics expenses and working capital requirements.
Yeah, holding cost, logistics expenses, and working
Working
capital are,
capital.
yeah. So I think they're all related. We've touched upon it when we talked about the inventory planning bit, right? If you plan your inventories well, you do your inventory optimizations correctly, you do your inventory categorizations correctly, when to fulfill, what is your safety stock, what's your economic order quantity. I think all of those things that we talked about, in a way, basically you're procuring and keeping only what you need, right? And when you procure and keep only what you need, automatically your working capital requirements also reduce, right? The more you hoard with yourself, the more will be the holding costs and the working capital requirements, right? So that's where the bullwhip effect that we spoke about comes into effect. Is,
Right,
is,
right.
is if you kind of build too much buffers into your supply chain, then you end up ordering more than what you need, and hence it will increase your holding costs, it will increase your working capital requirements and things like that, right? So logistics cost, is primarily the cost that you extra cost that you incur because you are bringing all of these items and you're taking it back to the seller, right? So unnecessarily you spent money in getting it and then sending it back. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean that's how the even the logistics cost gets impacted.
The next one is on cost allocation. It is asking how is it done for warehousing, packaging, shipping, and logistics? Allocating the costs.
Can you repeat the question again? Sorry, I'm allocating
So
the cost between.
between warehousing, packaging, shipping, and logistics. So there are
The
four components that are being laid out.
and how should we.
Allocate. So basically, if you're spending 100, how do you think, how much would be allocated for warehousing, then packaging, shipping, and logistics? Would you use a formula, or is it more like based on actuals, or because you will have so many probably products going out in one shipment. So if let's say there are four categories of products going out in one shipment, how will you allocate the cost for these things? Because each each layer is affecting the shipment, right? Warehousing, packaging may be more individual, or I don't know. But how about warehousing and shipping and logistics?
Are you able to hear me or see me now?
Yeah, yeah, I can hear you. Yes.
I'm sorry. Yeah, the question was more about allocating the overall logistics cost into
Costs.
these four components. Is that the
Uh,
question?
the overall cost, let's say, for you, the cost of
Okay. So
delivering your
there's no
product.
straight answer to it actually.
Maybe some
Yeah, so
some
there's no straight
rationale
answer
or
to
some
that.
logic.
Yeah, some guess
Yes,
estimates is what I
yes,
can tell
yes,
you. Yeah,
yes,
yeah, yeah.
please.
So if you spend say 100 rupees in an overall logistics cost, around 25% of that is last mile. From a WMS perspective, it will be a good 20%, with packaging being only 3 to 5% of the overall cost. Then the transportation and all of that would be another 30-40%, right? And then there are these overheads of damages, pilferages, and all of that, which will be again a 10 to 15% of the cost. So that will kind of take the overall number to 100. So that's the typical breakup of cost. But yeah, it depends, and it varies from business to business. Depends how much of your business is dependent on national movements versus how much of your business is being done through local fulfillment, right? So there are a lot of such elements that kind of come into play when you are looking at whether you have a deep reserve, whether you're more deep reserve heavy, or whether you are more lighter in terms of dark stores and things like that. So it will depend and it will change basis the composition of your supply chain. So yeah, I mean, but yeah, broad level, that would be my answer.
Yeah, I think, yeah, broad level, we've got a fair idea, like maybe 20
Yeah.
to 25% on warehousing and lower chunk on packaging and more towards the transport and some bit 10-15% on normal loss of pilferages, like you mentioned, including the other overheads of
Correct.
the
Correct.
manpower cost
And then
that is
around
being
another
associated.
equivalent to warehousing us. Yeah, and equivalent to warehousing, it's the last mile again is
Last mile,
typically
yes,
that
of course.
expensive
Yeah,
as a warehouse. Yeah.
25% is what you
Yeah.
mentioned. Yes. Okay.
Yes.
What are the key internal controls in e-commerce SCM cycle from an audit perspective? What kind of internal controls
I
you
think
guys have maintained?
we do stock checks, we do item categorization checks. All of that, as I said, was being enabled by the system, right? So we have these inventory cycle counts, we have these um, typical classification checks, and the way the entire cost is being accounted. All of that is being relooked every fortnight, every week, depending on the complexity and things like that, so that we don't keep many of these controls are reactive in nature, unfortunately.
Okay.
But we try to be proactive, at least when it comes to inventory adequacy, which is the biggest lever of audit compliance. Whether what you have, what you're claiming to have, do you have that or not? And that's where we basically do
Mhm.
these cycle counts and things like that, which are more proactive to be able to make sure that we are holding the right inventories, we are complying with whatever is needed there.
How can we have a small to medium scale retail industry integrate with e-commerce? And also,
Fantastic.
are we sustainably progressing with e-commerce by inclusion of our standalone retail shopping sector as a seller inventory? Mhm.
See, I think it's important in today's world. As you just mentioned, I think e-commerce somehow have spoiled the customers in some ways or the other, and it's very important to connect the local and the small industries with this, because if we don't, they will be left behind in this change of digital commerce, right? So there's a lot of work, and in fact, that's the work after working for 20 years in the industry. That's the work my company is doing currently in order to build these sustainable relationships with bigger platforms, and creating a platform for small, medium enterprises to be able to connect to the online business, right? And do it in a profitable. I mean, if you remember, I think when you meant you were reading out when Kirti was reading out the introduction, she mentioned that our mission is to make sure that we connect the small and medium enterprises with e-commerce, but we also want to do it in a profitable way, which means you have the right tools and techniques to be able to decide what should be your pricing, how should you price it, what's your actual receivable against a product that you have shipped online, are you making profits or not? If you're not making profits, then there are advices available, which is basically telling the seller saying, don't sell this item. If you're selling it, you're making losses, right? So there are all these kind of things that and tools and techniques that are being developed to connect the Bharat with the online ecosystem, right? And it's important to be a part of that ecosystem, because that ecosystem is, like it or not, a reality now with the proliferation of internet, mobile phones and everything. It's a reality. So we
Right.
can't shy away from that, but yes, it has its own challenges. People don't understand e-commerce so well. They don't understand how to price their products. They don't know how to measure their margins. They don't know whether they're growing sustainably or not along with the e-commerce, right? So hence a system which is required. It's the need of the hour, which can help them through that end-to-end journey. And that's what pretty much what we're building at Logistics.
Just want to understand one thing you mentioned about profitability. So is there like a feedback that happens from the e-com to the retailers? Because this is very critical, I mean, how will the retailer ever
See,
know whether they are losing out
yes.
heavily? Of course,
See,
they'll
the
know
feedback is
their basic
happening. The
metrics.
feedback is
Okay.
happening, but they don't, it's so complicated that a normal shopkeeper is never able to decipher that, right? It becomes very difficult, and that's where you need AI tools or techniques, which basically makes it very, very granular at an item level, saying, Here is the cost of the item that you had. This is what you sold it for. These are the elements that got incurred in the way where you paid platform commissions, you paid fulfillment fees. This was the return cost that you incurred. This is the closing fees that you had. This is the marketing fees that got into it.
Right.
Explaining that P&L in a way that everyone understands, right? I think many of the
Right.
folks we have on the call would be doing that for sellers, and they will realize that when they get a report from Amazon and Flipkart are still the benchmarks. They are doing the best of the best jobs. But even then,
Yeah.
if you try to understand their reports, it's not easy to understand, right?
Yeah.
Many a
Yeah.
times people struggle. There are a lot of to and fro's, and that's where,
Mm.
as I was mentioning, there's a company that I know is working on these things, which is giving exactly AI agentic solutions to do your P&L monitoring, to do your profitability analysis, to be able to give you that feedback which you just mentioned, right? In a very,
Yeah.
very accurate way, so that a
Yeah.
seller is able to understand exactly whether he's
Yes.
making. So they're giving even price verdicts. I've been mentoring them from a long time, so I know that these guys are working on something like
Okay.
this because they have been very passionate about AI and being able to solve this problem.
Okay.
And I know that they're doing the right things, but given the complexity of the overall ecosystem, they will take time to actually to come up and being able to deliver it for the end customer. But yes, there are efforts are being made to be able to decipher that and make it simpler for an end user.
But just wanting to extend this, I just want to understand this better. Let's say on Amazon, when a customer is rating a product, it's actually for the specific product and it is connected to the store from where the product is being sold on the website. So does that feedback go back to that store or the vendor who is
Yes,
listed
it
on
does.
Amazon? It
It
does.
does. It does. It goes
Okay.
back. It does. It does.
Like,
Even the
an
reviews,
average of
ratings, everything
three
goes
and a
back.
half, four, four and a half,
Yeah,
whatever
yeah.
rating. Over
Whatever ratings.
over
In
a
fact,
bunch of
people are very,
customers,
very
maybe
paranoid.
100,000.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
People are very, very
So,
paranoid. I mean, those who are serious about selling online, they're very, very paranoid about these ratings and they go out of the way at times, which we don't encourage as well.
okay.
But they go out
Yeah.
of the way, sending these cards to the customers,
Yeah, it's
calling these
happening more
customers to get the
often these
ratings and
days.
things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah, yeah,
become
yeah,
like
yeah.
a trend.
Because they know that if the product is not rated well, it will never appear on top. So customer feedbacks are being even accounted when a platform is showing a product to you. They will try to show product with good ratings first, and they will try to suppress products with bad ratings. And hence sellers know that if they don't get a good rating, they will not be able to survive.
Again, but isn't it like a sustainability problem because, they are actually sending additional things, for example, cards or, piece of handwritten notes or
Paper or
something.
something.
So again, you're utilizing the nature to kind of, so you think that is also again a
I
cyclical
think
thing?
that is being solved for. That is being solved for. That's not a big problem. I think somewhere or the other, even the platforms are realizing that there has to be some kind of a connect that has to be enabled between the customer and the seller. And today they don't do it because there is a lot of misuse of that information that happens, right? So the platforms primarily mask the end customer information from the seller, and hence sellers are finding innovative ways of reaching out to their customers by sending these cards and notes and things like that.
Right.
Right.
All right.
But I think there
Interesting.
will be a solve for that very soon. Yeah, there will be a solve for that very soon where people may be able to connect digitally. They still might not open the access directly to the end customer because there are a lot of things we've seen in the beginning when we were starting e-commerce have been there from that time. There were a lot of issues that happened when we started giving customer information to the sellers. People started making threatening calls as well, right? So they go to
Yeah.
any extreme, and
Yeah.
hence we decided that we'll not open up the customer information to the end seller,
Yes.
and that's for the customer's benefit, honestly. But yeah, it has its own pros and cons as well because then we've kind of cut the bridge of communication between the seller and the end
Mm.
customer. So they are
Yeah.
finding out different innovative
Ways
mechanisms to
of
reach them.
communication. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So the next one says, what technology do you use to optimize inventory? maybe like a tool or something else? Optimize
Inventory
inventory.
optimization tools. I mean, just again, type it on Google, and you will get a lot of inventory optimization tools.
Do you have any
Generally, these tools, as
favorites
I was,
or any favorites or any
I would not recommend
recommendations?
anything on inventory planning. I generally
Okay,
don't recommend anything on inventory planning.
all
So
right.
far, none of them have passed my criteria, so I would hold back my recommendations there.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Um, so, okay, this one says, my practical experience with stock audit visit to a big warehouse was that the stocks were not digitally traceable to the locations as per system. It was a fact that the staff handling the item was invariably was necessary to access the full stock of the item. How do you look at practice as against system? I'm
Yes.
not.
So I think I know what the guy
Okay.
is asking because I myself faced it.
Okay.
So I know what he's saying, or he or she's saying. But probably the problem is that compliance to systems is a big problem, right? You can have all the systems on this world, but if the people are not following the system, then there is a huge problem, right? And that's where I think one of the things that I briefly touched upon, and I'll elaborate now, is the cycle counts are very, very important. The cycle count checks is primarily a check where you basically go and check the inventory locations and the inventory quantity on a periodic basis. And what you try to do is you basically hold the operations for an hour or two, a couple of hours, and where no transactions are being done anymore. Generally, these cycle counts are being conducted by independent quality inspectors or auditors. They don't, it's not done by the warehouse people. Now, many of times people end up making a mistake where they give this responsibility to the warehousing team itself, right? So actually those 2 hours are of 2 hours of nice fun and tea and coffee break for these guys, and they actually don't do it. So even if you have the system which prompts you to check for the inventory and its location and everything else, people are not following it. And hence the advisable thing there would be, and we have done it both ways, so that I'm telling you this through very, very practical experience. As the I am sure the person who's asking this question has mentioned it's through practical experience that they are asking this question, and I know what they're talking about. And my advice there would just be that when you're doing these cycle counts, don't make the warehousing people do these cycle counts. Get it done through an independent audit team. So when they are doing the cycle counts, you will see much better results and you will see much better outcomes than what you would have seen otherwise. Yeah, and that's pretty much what it
Great.
is.
Yeah, as of now, that's the whole battery of questions that we have for you. So,
No, this
nothing
is very
more
good
right now.
questions, I must say, and very, very engaging. Very
Yeah.
good questions, and thanks to all the participants for asking such questions, which also
Yeah.
shows that people are interested. They're listening.
Yes. Yes.
So good to
Yes.
hear these things,
Yes.
and great to interact with you and the team and everyone else.
Yeah. Same here. I think good session. Very nice. Engagement, when the engagement is so high, you tend to really enjoy the entire experience of learning the whole, you know, process and the
So I
outcome
come
and
from
the
a family of
challenges.
Yeah, so I
From,
come from a family of professors, and my dad used to say
oh,
that if in a classroom
nice.
there is absolute silence, then it means
Yeah.
either people have understood nothing or they don't want to understand anything.
True, true, true. Yeah, yeah. So we had a
So,
great session.
so
Yeah.
I hope
Thank you
that
so much. Yeah.
no problem, my pleasure. Thank you so much for the time. If there's nothing else, we probably would.
Yeah, I'll just check with my team here once. Just give me a second, please.
Sure. Sure. You're on mute, Ankita.
Sorry. So yeah, we
No
would like
problem.
to extend a vote of thanks to Sarvaj for sharing his knowledge, experience, and for delivering such an informative and thought-provoking presentation. The insights that you have shared with us are, very insightful, logically explainable, understandable. So thanks a lot for your time and all the inputs that you've shared. Thank you, everybody, for participating. On behalf of the Sustainability Reporting Standards Board of ICI, thank you, everybody, for being part of this session.
Great. And anyone who wants to stay in touch, please. My name is slightly unique, so you can just type Sarvarth Kanchan on LinkedIn and you should be able to find me. I'll be the only guy. So we can stay connected and feel free to drop in
Yeah,
questions in the
sure.
future. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Thank
definitely. Yeah.
you.
Thank
Bye.
you for your time. Thanks a lot. Thank you, everybody. Have a great evening. Bye.
Thanks. Thanks. Bye.